Hi everyone, thank you for joining today's Solar Desalination Prize webinar. We will begin in a few minutes, but would like to wait another minute or two to give people a chance to get logged into the webinar. So if you'll just sit tight, we will begin momentarily. Thank you. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Once again, thank you everyone for joining today's Solar Desalination Prize webinar. If at any point during today's presentation you have technical difficulties or other questions, please submit your question in the question chat box, which you will see in your GoToWebinar tool. We will be addressing questions on HeroX rather than having a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So feel free to submit a question at any time and we will address it on HeroX. A recording of today's presentation will also be made available afterward on HeroX, so please look out for that. And without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Shane Powers of the U.S. Department of Energy.
All right, thank you. First, I want to thank everyone for attending today. We've had a lot of interest in the Solar Desalination Prize, and I'm excited to say that this webinar seems to be very well attended as well. So we're getting lots of questions on our HeroX page, and we thought that this webinar might be helpful for everyone to address some of the more frequently asked questions and also to provide some further information on the prize itself. Okay, next slide. All right, today we're going to give you an overview on the Solar Desal Prize itself. We're going to talk a little bit about the prize structure. It consists of 4 rounds, and we're going to go through each of the different contests. We'll have a technical discussion on what types of innovations we're looking for and how we're going to evaluate the submittals for the innovation phase and the other phases. We're going to talk about teaming and what our expectations are in that area. We'll talk a little bit about eligibility requirements. We've got a lot of questions in that area. We'll touch upon briefly intellectual property and then point you towards additional information and resources that are available through our website and other venues. Next. All right. The American-Made Challenges is a program funded by the U.S. Department of Energy to incentivize the nation's entrepreneurs to strengthen American leadership in energy innovation. Today, we have 10 different prizes as a part of this family, including the Solar Desalination Prize. The Solar Desalination Prize aims to expand the availability of fresh water or desalinated water by cost-effectively treating saline water using solar thermal energy. The Solar Desal Prize is part of a larger effort known as the Water Security Grand Challenge, which is a White House-initiated and DOE-led framework to advance transformational technology and innovation to meet the global need for safe, secure, and affordable water. Right? The prize consists of 4 consecutive contests. Each contest includes a period where competitors will work to rapidly advance your solution, culminating in an operational prototype demonstration of your technology at a real test facility using high saline water. In the first phase of the prize program, which is innovation, which is now open, we're in the innovation phase right now. We're looking for individuals or groups of competitors to demonstrate that you have a novel and feasible concept for a technology that can deliver desalinated water using solar thermal energy. This innovation can be a system component or an entire system. Winners here will receive $50,000 and you'll be eligible to compete in the next contest. But note that you must win the previous contest to be eligible for the next contest. That is, you have to win innovation to go to teaming, you have to win teaming to go to design to test, etc. The second contest is team, where you will work to establish and solidify to compete in as a cross-functional project team that can take a preliminary innovative desalination concept into a fully operational prototype. The winning teams will receive $250,000 in cash and $100,000 as a voucher to be redeemed at a national lab or facility in the American-Made network. The third contest is design, where competitors who won the teaming contest will work to complete a detailed design of their proposed prototype of a solar thermal desalination facility to the point that they are shovel ready for a site located in the U.S. Winning teams here receive $750,000 in cash and a $100,000 voucher. The final contest is test, where competitors will build their prototype system with a production capacity of at least 100 cubic meters of fresh water per day. Teams winning the test contest will be awarded $1 million in cash. Okay, next. Okay, shown here is the Solar Desalination Prize timeline. And as I mentioned, we are currently in the first phase, the innovation contest. That launched back in April of 2020. And you have until July 16th to submit your entry for the innovation contest. Winners of the innovation contest will be announced in September, and then the teaming contest starts. Submissions will be due for the teaming contest in January, and the winners of the teaming contest will be announced in March. The next 2 phases of the contest, design and test, give competitors several years to complete their work. Submissions for design will be taken on a rolling basis. In other words, you'll submit your design when it's ready, but the first design contest will end on March 2022. Okay? Remember, in order to compete in any of these contests, you must first win the innovation contest. The test contest, teams will decide which year they want to submit their submittal in, and that will come in April 2022, and the winners of the test contest will be announced as early as spring 2022. And we see this as an annual event, subject to congressional funding. Next slide. Okay, so the teams that compete in this, the competitors, have the potential to win up to $2 million in cash prizes, $200,000 in vouchers, and access to national labs, and support from the American-Made Network. And the support from the American-Made Network is not to be taken lightly. There's a lot of value there. so there's quite an incentive for the teams who are competing to do this. This is intended to take a concept of solar thermal desalination from concept stage into a commercial phase. And this venue provides a lot of support to help the teams do that. Next slide. All right. Like we said, we're currently in the innovation phase. It launched back in April 2020. And the goal of this is it's open to anybody, okay, provided you meet the eligibility requirements. And the goal is to identify impactful technology innovations that will result in a successful operational prototype of a solar thermal desalination system. The winners get a $50,000 prize and move on to the teaming contest. The rules can be found on the American Made Challenges website as a PDF file. And the submission deadline, again, is July 16, 2020 at exactly 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will not be taking any further submissions after this date. The winners of the innovation are announced in September 2020. Okay, as I mentioned before, you will get the support of the American Made Network as you progress through each contest of the Solar Desalination Prize. So one of the key benefits, the team's eligibility to use vouchers, and the vouchers can be used to pay for the services of entities that are part of the American Made Network. The teaming phase, you get a $100,000. Winners of the teaming phase get a $100,000 voucher, and winners of the design phase get another $100,000 venture. And you get able to use these at national labs. There's 17 national laboratories shown here on the map, and there's 100 network partners from 31 states. Next. Now, the entities that make up the American Made Network include such entities as test sites, national labs, and connectors. These vouchers can be used for things like research, consulting, special services, and basically any gaps in skill set that the permanent team members might not have. So this is really valuable. It sort of fills in all the gaps that you're going to need in order to progress and win each contest to move on. So further information can be found at the link shown here in the slide at the American Made Challenges website, Solar Desalination Network. So that's a very valuable part of this prize. In addition to that, I also want to make everyone aware of our Connector Rewards program. Connector Awards are meant to recognize people or entities that support the Solar Thermal Desal Prize itself. And there's 4 types of connectors that are rewarded through this program. They're shown here. The first one is connectors that identify and engage a test site that is ultimately can be used to support the solar desalination prototype facility, to be used as a test site. And people that are able to identify these test sites win a $10,000 award for a total pool of $100,000. And if you recruit a new test site facilities that are not already part of the network and are capable of hosting a solar desalination prize competitor's prototype, then you can win $10,000. Recruiting, this is distributed to connectors for recruiting new competitors for the innovation contest who have not previously applied. So simply by finding new competitors for the Solar Desal Prize contest, innovation contest, you can win $5,000 up to a maximum of $100,000. For the teaming contest, if you find team members who become part of a winning teaming contest submission, you will also receive $5,000. So if you find a host for a commercial entity, for example, that's interested in being part of a team, then that will earn $5,000. And finally, a partner. That's if you find a commercial partner or private funding that is incorporated into a winning test contest submission. That means if it goes all the way through the test phase, you can win up to $25,000. So That's an incentive for people to support the prize itself. Next slide. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about the innovation contest in details. That's what most of you are interested in. So next slide. All right, this is a simple graphic to represent what we're interested in. We're trying to take salinated water and solar energy, use it in a solar thermal desal system to produce fresh water. We're not looking for any kind of electricity to be made here. It's just fresh water. But we've been getting a lot of questions about what innovations are of interest and specific evaluation criteria on HeroX. So I thought we'd take a few minutes here to talk about that in a little bit more detail. Next slide. Okay. The Solar Desal Prize is open to innovations that include, but are not limited to, primarily solar thermally driven desalination technologies that target the following applications: desal for potable uses, desal for industrial uses, agricultural runoff desalination, oil gas produced water desalination, zero liquid discharge, and other. We have other there because it's open. What that means is we're not limited to the uses shown here. We're really looking for any desalination technology that you can clearly show there's a market for, and there's a pathway to commercialization. So this is not a limiting list. We're open to any potentially good idea, but we wanted to list a few specific examples here so that you know what we're looking for. And the type of technology that is of interest also ranges. You might suggest innovations that relate to evaporative technologies like MED or MSF, or membrane technologies, forward osmosis, vacuum membrane distillation, ZLD, or other innovations. I also want to mention that we are not limited to one product or one source of water. Hybrid systems are of interest, active or passive desalination, desalination plants that operate in continuous or batch mode. We want to encourage people to compete in the innovation contest, and the main criteria has to be primarily solar thermally driven. Okay, next slide. So that begs the question, what innovations are not of interest? We're not interested in solar electrically driven applications. Electrically driven, that means PV primarily, okay? So we're not interested in applications that not use thermal from solar plants, although you can use PV to generate electricity for supplementary uses, like pumping power, okay? But it must be primarily thermally solar driven. And they must be part of a system that's intended to have both a solar component and a desalination component. We're not interested in something that only looks at solar or only looks at desal. Okay, this is a solar thermal desalination contest. Hopefully that gives everybody a little bit more information about the innovations we're looking to have compete here. Next slide. All right. This slide is intended to address how we're going to evaluate the innovations, and these are the metrics that we're going to be ask everyone to try and quantify for their innovation. First, the levelized cost of water. That's the primary metric and probably the most useful for comparing competing technologies. Okay, the levelized cost of water is a complicated equation. It's not that complicated, but you can find it online. It basically is the total lifetime cost in terms of capital, financial, and O&M divided by the total lifetime clean water generation amounts. Okay, there's a formula shown below. We're also interested in the total thermal energy consumption, capital costs, operational costs, recovery ratio to minimize the amount of brine concentration, the annualized solar to desalination thermal efficiency. This is a solar contest, so that has to be part of it, and the impact on the environment. That's less of a quantitative metric, but we are interested in that as well, and will be used to evaluate the entries. And you can find more information about this on the technical specifications and performance metrics page on the link shown here. Next. Okay. The prize does seek to support the development of innovations from concept to a commercial entity. So as such, competitors will need to make a business case that their innovation can be competitive. So this slide shows what current solar thermal MED costs as well as seawater RO. And if you look at this, it says that solar thermal MED costs a nominal 90 cents per meter cubed of water, but has a large variation. Seawater RO has approximately 80 cents per meter cubed, but again, a large variation. The variations are because the costs vary significantly due to siting, permitting, and other regionally varying considerations, including irradiance in the solar thermal case. Okay, so there's a high error bars on this. We're targeting, the DOE is targeting 50 cents per meter cubed solar thermal desalination costs. But again, we don't want you to take that as a requirement at all. Your costs can be much higher than this depending on your application. As I tried to impress upon you in the previous slides, we are looking for a wide range of applications, and there's a lot of reasons why you may be above this number here. So what we're really interested in is that you demonstrate that there's a commercial pathway and there's some commercial viability of your innovation that could reasonably expect it to move forward as a U.S.-based product. Next. Okay, this slide is intended to give you some idea of what current costs are for MED systems. Based on this slide, you can tell that the MED has an amortized capital cost of somewhere between 20 and 25 cents per meters cubed. It also has a thermal energy consumption of somewhere between 60 and 75 kilowatts thermal per meter cubed. So where those two dashed lines overlap each other is somewhere about where the current cost for MED is. So being to the left and below that area is good. However, like I said before, we understand there's a wide range of concepts that we're looking for here, and there's a lot of reasons why you may be above or below this region shown here. We're just trying to give everyone an idea of what the current costs are as a benchmark to compare their innovation to. Next. Okay, the evaluation criteria, the details can be found in the rules, okay, but for everyone's benefit, we are really looking for three criteria that we will use to assess, score, and select the winners of the innovation contest. First, how novel your innovation is. If you propose an innovative idea that's truly unique and new, that's going to get you high points. That's going to score very well as part of the innovation phase. Second is technically feasible. We have to be convinced that your technology has a sound, there's sound engineering principles behind it, and it's physics-based, and that there's a credible engineering pathway for your innovation. And third, it has to be impactful. You have to show that if this innovation is fully implemented, that you're going to see some real differences in those performance metrics that currently exist versus what will exist. Okay? And again, more detail on that in the rules. So now we're going to move on to the teaming phase. The teaming contest has not started. The teaming contest will start after the innovation phase, and only the winners of the innovation phase are allowed to compete in the teaming phase. And those submissions will be due in January of 2021. for the first teaming contest. Next. Okay. You are not expected to have your team together at this point, nor are you expected to identify it as part of the innovation phase. But as part of the teaming phase, you need to have your team together, and that, again, that's going to be January 2021. And the functions of the team, as we see it, is there's going to be an innovator, which is the primary researcher. There's going to be the commercial entity, which provides a pathway to commercialization. This could be someone who's financing it, somebody who's advertising it, somebody who's manufacturing it. Some plan to take this idea into a product. Okay, and then a host site, and that's the site that will eventually host your prototype unit and allow you to compete in the test phase. And it's possible that one single entity can do all these functions. We're not excluding that. However, we don't expect that. We expect you to need to put together a team, and we have ways to support that. But your team together can fulfill these functional requirements of the team. Next. So to support that, we are going to host a teaming event. And competitors in the teaming phase will be invited to a virtual event in the fall. Again, the competitors in the teaming phase are the winners of the innovation phase. So those winners will be able to present their innovation to people online, and you'll be able to engage with other entities. You're going to learn the capabilities of potential test sites, and most importantly, you'll be able to make connections to build out your team. Again, you have to have the full team together by January 2021 for this year. And so this is a way to connect to those different team members, and so you can move forward. So we don't have an exact date yet or a specific format, but we're working on that now. More to come, and we'll let people know the details of the teaming event, but we're looking to have that in the fall. Next slide. Okay, the design phase is the phase that the teams use to do their detailed design. The detailed design is everything you need to do to move from the concept into being shovel ready, and that's the key word, shovel ready. Okay, so you're going to have all your drawings in place, your permits in place, your purchase orders ready to go, etc. So that if you're announced as a winner, you can immediately move into the test phase. Okay, so the degree of readiness is the primary evaluation factor, and finalists for this phase are announced as early as March 2022. Next phase. Next slide, sorry. Okay, the final contest is the test contest. The initial submittal for the test contest can be as early as April 2022, and the winners of the test contest are announced in the spring of 2022. Next slide. Okay, the test contest is phase 4 of the prize structure, as we showed earlier. And what we are looking for is to validate the successful operation of the Solar Thermal Desalination System prototype with a capacity of at least 100 cubic meters of fresh water per day. That's fresh water. Okay, so the reason we picked that amount is because we are interested in something that's a little bit more than lab scale. Definitely not commercial scale yet, but somewhere in the middle. It has to be of a scale that shows that your innovation can easily move into a commercial scale level. Okay, we don't want a lab scale because we don't feel that is mature enough to do that. So somewhere in the middle, and that's why we thought the 100 cubic meters of fresh water per day was a good quantity of water that we felt met the requirements. Okay, and the other key requirement of the test phase is you're going to be expected to secure a binding agreement with a partner to fund the ongoing commercial development of the technology validated by the prototype. That's kind of the pathway to commercialization that we're looking for. And the winners of the test phase, again, will receive $1 million. So, so it's quite an incentive to compete. Next slide. All right. This slide shows what the requirements are to win the Connector Award for identifying a test site. You can select any test site you want, but this slide gives you an idea of what you might expect for a test site that's been identified as part of that Connector Network program. Okay, so for that, and the reason we're talking about it here is some things to think about when looking for a test site. Okay, first they have to be able to provide a source of raw water for desalination. If the raw water is not available, then you are allowed to receive and store high salinity water. In other words, truck it in from a different source if you don't have a raw water source. Second, you have to be able to dispose of the desalinated water product stream. Again, you can dispose of that any way you want, but there has to be a path. Third, you have to be able to dispose of the concentrated brine stream, if any. We say if any because you may have a ZLD system. Right? In the absence of the ability to discharge it, again, you should have the ability to fill up trucks and dispose of the brine. Third, you have to have reasonable access to the site facilities and services for competitors to support the construction, commissioning, and testing of the innovation. The competitors have to be able to get to the site and be able to work there, have to be able to build it. You have to be able to receive equipment. There should be some means for storage, security, warehousing, cooperation with site personnel, demolition, because you'll have to get rid of this innovation at some point, trailers to work in, etc. Access must be given to third-party support services, such as wastewater disposal if necessary. The site should have safety procedures in place, including handling chemicals, construction activities, safety training, lockout, tagout for electrical safety, and as necessary to support the competitors as well. Next slide. The site should be able to provide the needed utilities of the innovation. That's power, compressed air, emergency power, fuel gas supply. We'll talk about that in a minute. Lighting, etc. The details should be discussed with each team. In the event that high voltage is necessary, then the site should be responsible for providing that. The site must have all the required permits for all the proposed activities or be able to show a clear path for getting a permit for all required activities. The activities include construction, commissioning, testing, and operation of the innovation. And this might include, for example, water discharge permits, construction permits, natural gas combustion if you have temporary heaters, thermal discharge of waste streams, concentrated impurities in wastewater, etc. And since solar thermal desalination is the main focus topic, the site should have sufficient area to install solar collectors and a thermal storage system. The key point here, if competitors plan to use an alternate source of heating, such as natural gas, the site should have access to natural gas, propane, or fuel oil, and permits to make use of fuels at the facility. Next slide. Next. Okay. So let's talk about the solar field. We understand that the solar field is very expensive, and there may be very limited sites that actually have a solar field for you to use. And you are strongly encouraged to use this real solar input for testing, but we do allow you to test with alternative heat sources. That might be a natural gas-fired boiler, for example. Okay. However, if direct solar input is not used, then you should be prepared to demonstrate key technologies like heat exchange performance and thermal energy storage necessary to integrate the solar thermal energy with desalination. The team should be able to simulate the full range of thermal input relevant for a solar thermal desalination system. Okay, so we are not requiring the presence of a solar field as part of the test phase. However, you're encouraged to do so. And if that's not possible, we do and will allow an alternate heat source, such as a natural gas boiler, for example, for use, provided it meets the requirements stated on the slide. Next. Okay, who's eligible? We get a lot of questions about eligibility. So for the innovation contest, private entities, for-profit and nonprofit, academic institutions, and individuals can compete as long as they meet this criteria. Private entities must be incorporated in and maintain a primary place of business in the United States with majority domestic ownership and control. If an entity seeking to compete does not have domestic ownership and control, but otherwise meets the eligibility requirements, the DOE Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, that's EERE, may consider issuing a waiver of that eligibility requirement where the entity submits a compelling justification. Entities seeking a waiver should include a justification along with their submission. All right. Academic institutions must be based in the United States. An individual prize competitor who is not competing as a member of a group must be a United States citizen or a permanent resident. And a group of individuals competing as one team may win, provided that the online account holder of the submission is a United States citizen or permanent resident. However, for later contests, individuals will not be eligible to win. Individuals may be a part of the team, but the submission must be submitted by an entity in the U.S. Again, that's only for the later contests. For innovation, individuals are eligible. So hopefully that answers your questions related to eligibility. And you can find all this on the desalination, solar thermal desalination prize rules located on our website. Next slide. Okay, we're getting a lot of questions on intellectual property. The main question we're getting is if there is any proprietary invention that comes out of this effort, who will own the rights to those? All right, and the answer to that is the rights will remain exclusively with the team unless an invention occurs under work funded through a prize voucher at a national laboratory. If your team receives a voucher, please review the terms of the agreement with the national lab and consult with an intellectual property lawyer if necessary. So again, that's just the voucher part of the prize winnings, okay? But other than that, the rights remain exclusively with the team. Next. Okay, I wanted to take a minute and point you to different links and websites where you can find more information on the Solar Thermal Desal Prize. Today was just an overview, and I encourage everybody to go through the documents. They're available online. First, the Solar Desalination Prize website is the American Made Challenges website, americanmadechallenges.org/solar desalination. The HeroX website is where you'll submit your submittals for the innovation phase and other phases. There's also a forum to ask questions and a list of frequently asked questions. I believe that's up and running now. If not, it will be soon. And that's www.herox.com/solar desalination. The submission template, which I'll talk about next, is you can find that on www.herox/solar desalination resources. The official prize rules are on the Solar Desalination Prize website, American Made Challenges website. The network and connector guidelines are also on the Solar Desalination Prize website, AmericanMadeChallenges.org. The NREL program news story, the press release is found at www.nrel.gov, and that's announcing the Solar Desal Prize. And there's also a social media, a Twitter account for the American Made Challenges prizes for you to go to. So everyone should go to these links, take a look at them. There's a lot of information there. I couldn't cover it all in this webinar today, but everyone should take the time to go through that. Next slide. Okay. right around the corner, July 16th, the innovation submittals are due. There is a submission template online. This is what it looks like, and I wanted to take a minute here to call special attention to the submission template, which can be found on the Resources tab in the HeroX page. It looks like this, okay? All right. If anyone has any questions today, as mentioned previously, you could have typed them in the chat box while I've been speaking, and we will try to answer them after this webinar. You can also post in the HeroX forum, as mentioned, www.herox Solar Desalination Forum, or you can email us at the email link shown below, solardesalprize@nrel.gov. Thank you, everyone. I hope this webinar has been informative. We're excited about the level of interest in this prize, and we look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you very much. With that, I'll turn it back over to NREL.
Thanks, Shane. And thank you everyone for attending today. We received a lot of questions, and as mentioned, we will be addressing those on the Solar Desalination Prize HeroX channel. As a reminder, a recording of today's presentation will also be made available on HeroX, so please check back for that. With that, if you have any other questions, please refer to the HeroX forum or email solardesalprize@nrel.gov. And I think that wraps it up for today's presentation. Thanks, everyone.